Hello folks, this is Founder Leroon with Fantasy Grounds College. Today I'm going to work on a little line of sight with a fire themed dungeon. I'm going to put a grid on it, try to do the line of sight, maybe add a little ambient lighting, perhaps even make a couple encounters. We'll see what happens. But for the most part, I just want to play around with line of sight. By no means is this a very thorough or professional video. This is just volunteer work and something I like to do to share. Instead of just keeping it to myself, I'll broadcast these out from time to time as I practice using the digital tools within Fantasy Grounds. So without further ado, let's get started. So the first thing I want to point out is the map that I'm using comes from a map pack that was designed by a fellow gamer and a fellow community member. That is Chris McDermott, also known as the Maphatter. He's also the man behind the Game Tile Warehouse website, which is a website plumb stock full of digital maps. So if you ever need situational maps or maps that connect to each other or anything like that, he's got them. He also has in Fantasy Grounds format and for other VTTs. He does a bunch of Kickstarters and such. I support him as much as I can. He's done some nice things for the college as well. So this is a fire-themed map. It's Fire Dungeon. This comes from a module that comes out of the Undervault Fantasy Grounds Meanders map pack. I think it's also available on the Fantasy Grounds store. I'll put the links in the video description at the end. So I just have the SRD loaded, which is the basic system reference document. I have the map pack, and then I have a module that I use to help teach a class if I'm going to learn and teach people how to use Fantasy Grounds. And right now I'm kind of looking at the maps and tokens. So this is a module that we created in the community for free. It just has a lot of the inline information instead of going to the website. It's all built into this reference manual. The only caveat is it'd be harder to update this, but there are links that go straight to the website or the wiki guide, the Atlassian, where I found the information. Okay, so right now we have this map. The first thing we want to do is take a look at the title up here. It says Map Fire Dungeon 03 Central Platform. No problem with that. I might change this to Map, Fire Dungeon, and then maybe put an underscore, because I know Fantasy Grounds has problems with certain characters, so I'm trying to avoid using hyphens or quotations, especially in titles of things. Yeah, even this comma could be troublesome, but I'm going to go ahead and use it to, it'll help me differentiate the title. And then on the right-hand side, I'm just going to say Fire Dungeon. That's all I'm going to say. There's no reason to give too much more description. And this central platform is going to be where a boss is, so I think I don't want to announce that. So you would turn on this identified ring, which is up here. It has the ID through it. You go ahead and unidentify this left column, and on the right side column is what the players will see when you share the map. To share a map in Fantasy Grounds or any sort of image, you just right-click anywhere on the map. You go to sharing, which is this little swooshy looking icon on the left. Looks like a person and a screen. You click on that, and you have stop sharing record, and you have share record. So you're basically going to share this image. So go ahead and click share record, and that'll push that out to your players so they can see it. Now, it doesn't necessarily sync what you're looking at. They could have this window sized differently. But if they do have this window open, you can right-click. You can click on, let's see, where is that? View. And you can sync the view with your client so they can kind of get an idea of what you're looking at. Also, this little drop down here, if you click on that, this will expand out the map to fit your area, your viewing area. Or you can right-click, click View, and then you have Zoom to Fit or Zoom to Fill. So Fill will expand the whole thing. Zoom to Fit will fit within the dimensions. So if I do that, that's what it's going to do. But I want to zoom out just a touch because I'm going to start doing line of sight and such. And I think the first thing we need to do, though, before we do anything else, is put a grid on it. That's very important to start with the grid. So I'm going to unlock the map. And this will reveal the map tools. Let me close this map for now. And I'm going to stretch this out so we can see a little bit better. And then if you click this zoom to fit button up here on the top, it will kind of zoom out. And occasionally you can click on the map and then zoom in if you're doing some finite details, but I don't see anything like that right at the moment. You go all the way to the right, there's the grid. So if you're going to put the grid on, you turn on this little eyeball. It says toggle grid visibility, and it's on. Now, fortunately, it looks like it's right on. I mean, it's pretty close. It's a little off on the stairs, but that could be how they were drawn. But everything else is good. I mean, the doorways looks pretty much right. It's at least it's lined up with the tiles so that it doesn't mess you up. Now, this is kind of a heavier, thicker default gray line, so you can see the grid kind of. But I'm going to go ahead and change the color of it, and you can also change the weight or the opacity. You can change if it's clear or not. So I'm going to zoom in, and you can see the lines right here. I'm going to go ahead and change the tint, and I'm going to take the color picker, which is this little dropper here, and I'm going to go over some of these lines in here, and then it's going to pick up the color of the floor and some of the fire here. And I kind of want it themed, and then I might make it a little bit more red. And then I'm going to fade the alpha channel, which is the bottom here, the letter A, and kind of make it a little less intrusive. And then go ahead and hit OK. If you see, this is kind of off just a hair. So if you want to fix that, there's this little toggle here, and it has this little tiny arrow. You can move it over a couple so it's not so off-centered. And there you go. But see, now you got to be careful when you move that. If your map isn't perfectly square, what'll happen is it'll be off over here somewhere. But it still looks pretty good, so I did a good job on it. So there we go on that. And then that's the first step. So you want the grid on there. The next thing is if you bring in your own image, this one's already locked. But if you want to lock or unlock the position, you want to make sure it's locked once you have the grid set in there. That way the image doesn't actually get picked up and moved around. And that's important. When you're layering down stuff, you want to lock them once they're in place. So now that I have the grid, now I want to go ahead and do the doors on all of the different rooms and such. It's debatable as to what you should do first. I always do the doorways. That's the way I was told to do it. I've tried it the other way. It just depends on the thickness of the walls and you know how much work it is and all that kind of stuff. But I am going to just line out all the doors, including these passageways, which are actually not doors. They're entrances. But I want to go ahead and close those off because I don't want to have any light leaking in or out. So I'll go ahead and close those. So what I'm going to do is switch to the line of sight effect up here tool, which is this brick wall. And you'll notice that there's a selection tool, which you really need to pay attention to which tool you're in. You have the line tool, which will paint a line. You have a rectangle tool and an ellipse, which will do a circle. And the rectangle tool can do squares and rectangles. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and start putting in the doorways. So I'm going to start over here and kind of work my way down and get all these different doorways. So let's see what's going to happen here. All right, so I'm going to go to the rectangle tool, and the type is door. Okay, so rectangle, door. When you're done, or if you need to edit anything, you have to go back to the select mode, and that's something that a lot of us forget, including me. I know better, and I still do it. I'll go and I'll start drawing and realize I'm in the wrong tool. So make sure that you're in the correct tool, whether it's selection tool or one of the drawing tools. You have to toggle back and forth. So right now I'm in a drawing mode, and all I'm going to do is just left click and drag in this area here, and just make it, you know, roughly around the same thickness of the wall, maybe just a touch over, so it's easier to apply the walls later. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to go through the doors, and I'm going to go ahead and outline these with the door tool. It doesn't have to be exactly perfect. Just get close. Because you can always go back and adjust them. So here, see now I don't know why that did it, because of my mouse screwed me up. But to get rid of that, since we don't have Control U anymore, or Control Z, which was to get to undo, I'm just going to double click on this, go to the selection tool, and then double click, and that will select all these points, and just hit the delete key. Now technically I can use this rectangle. I don't have to delete it. So I'm just going to move on, and I'll come back to it. So I want to go back to the rectangle tool, or you can sit here and fix it at this point. Maybe I'll do that since I'm already in the selection tool. So all I have to do is select this corner and drag it down to the width of the doorway. And then I'm going to do the same with this line here. I'll just come across and put it right here. And then this corner, I'll put that right there. So it wasn't a total loss, but there again, once in a while, when you're dragging, you'll let your mouse go, the pressure on your mouse, and it will do that. It'll draw more than one. So again, I'm going to do the same thing, but see, I'm in the select tool. If you try to draw in the selection tool, it's not going to draw anything. So go back to the rectangle tool and make sure you're in the door tool and go ahead and draw this out. And that should be that. And then there's another door down here. So I want to make sure I grab that while I'm here. And you just systematically go through doors and windows and, you know, bookshelves, anything that you think that's going to need an occluder of some sort. Now these are stairs right here, so I'm not going to mess with those. But I am going to add a doorway in here, which is another point of connection for these maps. They're designed to be connected together. That's why there's so many open ways. And then there's another set right here, which allows you to connect to different maps. So the Meander series are maps that connect together. That's why there's so many doorways. So Chris made these so that, you know, they're modular. You can connect them together. They usually line up regardless of what map you have. Pretty cool, actually. The concept was a really cool concept when it first came out. It's really cool. Okay, so there's the other door. So we're getting there. We got a few more to go. So here's another door. And you notice I'm kind of making them wide because I don't want them too thin. When you go to select them when you're in gameplay, if they're really thin, they're hard to select in the game. So try to make them just a little thicker than you think, just so you can grab them, or you can actually unlock and lock the door when someone comes to that area, because it sure is a pain when you're trying to do that during a game. So there's the other doorway, and as you can see, I'm kind of systematically going through and looking for doors. Here's one right here. So I want to make sure I got the occluder on that. So this one looks a little off, like maybe it's angled to the right a little. So if you find that, if you got a door that's not perfectly square, go ahead and, or rectangular, go ahead and make the door. And then if you need to, you can go back and adjust. So if you don't like how it's off a little, you can go to the selection tool and just select this corner and just kind of move it. And I'll move this corner in. And this is something you'd want to do at the end when you're done with all your doors. See, here's this one. It's a little bit off. So that's fine. We can adjust for that. And this kind of just cleans it up a little and kind of makes it more consistent with the actual lines there. But, you know, it doesn't have to be perfect, but you want it kind of close. And then I'm going to make sure I go back to the rectangle tool. Now, normally I don't go in and adjust those until the end. But I kind of want to show you in case you got to leave or you only get to watch part of the show. So, and there's that door. Now there's an opening down here. It's kind of hard to see because it's washed out by the light here. But there is a doorway, so I'm going to go ahead and draw that in. So it's kind of like a hallway, or you know, it's not really necessarily a door. It could just be a walkway, but I'm going to go ahead and turn these into doors just so I don't have to deal with them later. And then here's another opening down here, the bottom. I'm trying to make sure that the doors are inside of the map as well, and not sitting on the outside. So I might have to fix some of those as I go, but for the most part, try to keep them in within. Okay. So that's pretty much the doors. If you had windows or you know, things like that, you can add those in at this time. So making those decisions on, you know, are you going to do the doors first or the windows first? Usually I do the portals and openings and such first, but you know it's up to you really. But the consensus is that you want to do the doors and the windows first. Makes it a little easier, and I'll show you why shortly. Let's see, we got that, and now let's take a look at. You know, I'll zoom in on a couple of these just to kind of see what's going on with them. Make sure that they're correct. Make sure that they have the right overlap that I'm looking for. So when I go to draw the lines in, it's not going to be too hard on me. So like this one, for instance, I'm going to go to the selection tool. I'm going to come out just a little bit. And the reason for that is when I come in with a line of sight, it'll be much easier to deal with this than trying to fix it while I'm doing that. So what I'm going to do is make sure that I have enough width here, and also there'd be just enough width to get the lines through there so that I don't have to deal with that as I'm drawing the line of sight. This one doesn't look too bad, but I'm going to come out a hair, and then I'm going to fix this a little bit. So this is when you actually go in and kind of fine-tune what you've done. And this is important that you do this, but you want to do it in steps, because then you're switching back and forth between tools, and that's very time-consuming. So if you want to save time, you want to try to stick with one tool at a time if it's feasible. That way you're not struggling with it. And generally I do much better when I'm not trying to explain. I just kind of whip through this. So it might take me a little longer to do these because I'm explaining and I'm trying to be careful not to make too many problems for myself as I go through this, because it's easy to kind of get off track, and don't want to do this 10 minutes before a game for sure. This is not something for to whip right out normally, especially a map like this. Okay, so that's that doorway. Kind of have it expanded out a little bit so that when I draw the line of sight in there, it's going to be a little easier for me. And then I got this door down here, which is fine. It's mainly the doors that are along the walls that I'm concerned about. Because if they're right at the wall and I go to draw the line of sight in, it's hard to fix those if they're too close in. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure that they're out here a ways, and then I'm not impinging on anything or making it harder on myself. So there's that. And it looks like this is off just a little bit, so fix that if you want. It's just kind of up to you how picky and meticulous you want to be. It's better if you don't have a lot of points on the walls as well. Early on, a few months ago, I was putting little details on everything. You don't have to do that. It's not recommended. It actually puts more burden and memory on your system and your players. So just remember, Fantasy Grounds is always updating, and if it finds the lines, too many splines in there, it has to recalculate all those, and that can be pretty tough on it. Especially if you have an older machine and your bandwidth isn't that great, you can have a kind of a negative impact on your performance. So let's see what else we have. So we got that and that and that. So all I'm doing right now is kind of just going through the doors and just widen them just a hair, and then I'll come back in and start doing the line of sight. So this is just the doors right now and the portals or the walkways. That's what the walkways are what I'm more worried about than the actual doors. So the doors are pretty thick. So like this can be just a touch bigger. That's good for make that a little easier on us later on. All right, so that's basically, you do all your doors. If you made a mistake, no big deal. Just keep going and then go back and make your adjustments like I'm doing now. And you have to make sure you're in the selection mode. If you try to do this when you're in the drawing mode, it's going to draw again. You want to try to avoid that. That's a common mistake, especially when you first learn to use it. I still do it. I don't know what it is, but I try to create, like I'm trying to drag this line out of here, and I'm in the drawing tool, and it draws another line. It's like, dang it. I forget to switch back and forth, and that's probably one of the most annoying things that you'll come across as you're starting to use Fantasy Grounds. So get that habit away as quick as you can. Trust me, it's annoying. And when you do it 100 times and you still do it, it's like, man, I gotta figure it out. I always forget, no matter what. I know better. And it's one of those things where you just got to get used to the tool, and you got to know where you're at all times. Otherwise, you're gonna go crazy. Trust me, I've been there and back. Okay, so that's good. I'm pretty happy with the doors. So that's the first thing, is doors, windows. If you want to do it that way. Some people put the walls in and then they'll put the doors on. It just it really depends on what you want to do. But the suggestion is that you go ahead and do those. So since I have a lot of rectangles here, you could, respectively, to make this simpler on yourself, is just make a bunch of rectangles for the walls. And then you can go back and take out the excess that you don't want. Or you can try to, go in the line mode and, draw it through as best you can, like all the way across. But it's kind of doubling up on your work sometimes, depending on how you approach it. So to make it simple, I think I'm going to use the rectangle mode just to see how it works for me. I haven't used it in a while. So what I'm saying is, instead of drawing individual lines through here, I want to draw in rectangles. And I don't care if they don't match perfectly, because I can go in and delete it. So this wall up here and these side walls, the outside, are just going to be big triangles, or big rectangles, excuse me. So I'm going to go to the rectangle tool, and I'm going to go to the wall tool. And what I want to do is start on the inside a little bit, not all the way on the edge. You don't have to be at the very vertex or the edge of the line. Just be right inside here, and then I'm going to draw this out. Don't worry if it's not perfect, because I can come back and fix the rectangle. So if I click here, and I'm going to zoom out a little, and actually, to make this a little easier on myself, you want to expand the map out so you can kind of get a better view of what you're doing. And then I'm going to go ahead and do that, so that way I can see what I'm doing and not have to zoom in and out 5 times. And that's kind of helpful when you're editing big maps like this. This is a pretty good sized map. You don't want it any more than that if you can help it. It's just one of those things where, a lot of people start big, and then once they play Fantasy Grounds, they realize that this is not quite an ideal map. It's close. I mean, this is about the maximum size of a map that you'd want in Fantasy Grounds. Now, if it's an overland map, it's fine. It can be bigger, but I'm talking like a battle map or a dungeon map. This is an ideal size as far as dimensions go. Now, the configuration is one thing, but the actual dimensions of the tile is important, and that's the way you're avoiding having to scroll in and out. If you have a huge map, you're always having to go in and look at what's going on and zoom out so you can get an overview. If you keep the map simpler and sized accordingly to what your needs are, it's a lot easier to deal with. So I'm going to come up here, and again, I'm in the rectangle tool and I'm in the wall tool, and I'm just going to make a rectangle, and I don't care if it overlaps anything. So I'm just going to start on the inside of this wall, drag all the way over, try not to let go of the mouse like I did earlier, and then kind of just like that. And what that does is it traces through the walls. It ties everything together. Everything looks nice and straight. And when I come back, I can delete out the stuff I don't want. So that's a trick that you can use on dungeon walls. That doesn't work very well on caverns and such, but for like this kind of... See, I just accidentally drew something down here. I wasn't paying attention. So if you do that, just go to the selection tool, double click on one of these points and hit delete, or you can left click and highlight that area, and it will select all the points and hit delete. There's a couple ways you can do it. I'm going to go back to the rectangle tool. I'm in the wall tool. So I'm going to start up here, and I'm just going to try to connect with one of these lines and make sure the magnetic snap is on there. It doesn't have to be perfect, because we can actually delete out the excess. So I'm just going to come down through here, and I'm going to drop this line right about here. And that should take care of that. Yep. So that'll make this so that we can go back and fix the little anomalies later. So don't worry too much, because then you're going to keep switching back and forth, back and forth. You want to try to stay in one tool. That's that's a tip that most of us are learning as we go. And then again, I'm going to draw this big rectangle right here, try to overlap it as best I can. And if it doesn't overlap, it's okay, because you can come back in here and clean up the stuff that you don't like. So you're just trying to get the line of sight in and just trying to make it so where I can use it and not have to worry too much about it. So here we go. So I'm just going to left click, drag. Try not to release the mouse while you're dragging so it doesn't draw more than one line. And then I'm trying to stay on the inside of that brick wall so it's not, right on the line. And that's what you're going to get when you do that. So now the inner wall. So that's just going to be a series of rectangles as well. So I'm going to take this main wall here and I'm going to come across it. So I'm just going to zoom in just a little bit. I can see where I'm clicking and just draw this in and not worry about too much what's going on with it. And then this other line over here, kind of the same thing. I'm going to click here, left click, and drag through all this stuff and come down like that. And the same thing with this, just kind of come through here and bring this over to here. And you want to overlap because you can actually get rid of all the extra lines. It's not going to hurt anything. And then I'm going to go ahead and do that for this area too. So come down here, draw lines. And I'm going to do the same here. Just go just over to the left of the line and single click and drag and just let it overlap. No big deal. It's not going to hurt anything. And then same thing with this. I'm going to start in this corner. I'm all the way through until I get to this, almost into that next room. And you can see I got these little tails here. That's pretty easy to get rid of. So here's another area that I need to cross through. So I'm going to start up here, just on the outside, and come in here and go ahead and draw through there. And you see I didn't try to land on those lines. It's almost impossible to do that. So just relax, don't stress, just trying to say, okay, I got the main stuff in. And then here, I'm going to go ahead and draw this rectangle like this. Bring it up a little so it's not, there we go. I'm going to draw another rectangle in here and come down to there. And I'm going to draw this all the way through here, this line. So I'm going to come out past a little bit on the left, and I'm going to drag this over. So like that. And as you can see, I had to move this over, so I can come back later and adjust that. I can extend it where I want it. So don't stress too much, just try to get the main lines in first. So here I'm going to do the same thing. Just take this and go right through it. And that'll create those points. And you want those points so you have something to select when you actually want to delete something. So here I'm going to go ahead and just draw this in. Yeah, I didn't want to do that. So selection tool, double click, delete. So I'm going to try it again. Let's try it again. So I'm going to go to the rectangle and draw this in and just let it go like that. Like I said, you get these tail ends here. That's fine. Don't worry about that yet. So let's see how we're doing here. We got a few walls to go. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on the outside of this again. I'm all the way through, just like that. Leave a little space out here. And I'm going to do the same thing as this one. Draw a little bit beyond. And I'm out there. By doing that, you're creating points that you can select and then delete. It makes it a lot easier than trying to put everything exactly where it should go the first time. It can get very annoying, and I constantly have to switch back and forth. It's just not worth the effort. So this here is the same thing. You're just going to come through here and put that wall in. See, what do we got? Any more walls that we need to deal with? Yeah, there's a couple. So that's the one I need to fix. But there's this one here. So that one, I'll just go right through it, just like that. And now I think I have a majority of the walls done. Yeah. So that's kind of like part B of B1. Now B2 would be to go back and adjust those. So go back to the selection mode. And what you're going to do is come in and clean up some of these corners. Like this, for instance, is a big mess. So I actually can take that line and put it there. And then I could take this line once I'm done deleting these points and move it up a little bit. So right now, the only points I really want to get rid of is this line. Actually, I don't want to get rid of anything. I'm just going to move that over right there. Move that over. It won't let me. Yeah, there it goes. So you can see that it's really not, mission critical here. You can click that point and delete it. You can actually potentially delete. Now that actually deletes the line. So what I'll do with that is extend it. There we go. So I just snap that to grid. And if you want to get rid of these two lines here, you just go back to line mode and click, hit escape or enter or double click, excuse me. You do that, and then you go to the selection tool and you just highlight those and hit delete. And it's really that simple. It takes that out, and it also helps ensure that it's a little bit more straight. Now this wall is in a little bit, which is okay, but if you're not happy with that, you can always bring that in a touch. You don't have to leave it there necessarily. And I don't know if I can move that because it was a different point of intersect. And then same with this. But that's not bad. I mean, that's only one extra point. It's not going to hurt anything. It's not like you got 50 of them. So that's kind of what you do to clean up these edges. So that's kind of the same thing with these doors. So I can go to here and take, oops, I didn't want to do that. But anyways, you can take these lines here, these red lines that intersect through the door, and you're going to do the same thing. You just click, or double click on that, and then you would highlight it and delete it. So technically you can do this all in one step or one go, so you're not constantly doing that. Now I'm going to take the magnetic snap off because I want to adjust this over just ever so slightly, and then I'm going to select this point here, and then I'm just going to select it once and then hit delete, see what happens. Yep, that looks right. And see, these aren't connected, so I'm going to go back to snap to grid, and I'm in the selection tool, and I'm just going to bring that like that. There you go. And then what I want to do is you can move this corner a little. I didn't mean that for that to happen, but that's because I was on snap to grid. So turn the snap to grid off again, and you can move the lines if you need to. So like that. And then this one here, just click that point, hit delete, and that gets rid of the tail. So you can get yourself into a little bit of a snickerdoodle here, but for the most part, you're just trying to take the lines out. So I'm going to I got snap to grid off, so I'm just going to click a line in here. So click that and that. And then all I'm going to do is take the selection tool. I'm just going to delete those lines right there. That gets rid of the doorway problem. See, it's in there, it's right, it's connected. And this is how when you zoom way in, you can see if the lines are, and that's why you overlap. That way you're not missing the line by one pixel. That's all it takes. And then the light will leak out and it won't look right. So there's your doorway. Now going to zoom back out, recenter the map, and take a little look. And let's do this strategically, so I'm not trying to use the tool 50,000 times. I need to figure out a way I want to handle this. So I think I'm going to do is start from the top and work my way down. So what I want to do is go to the line tool. I'm in the wall tool. I'm not even on snap to grid, just in case. So I'm just going to put lines through the stuff I want to delete. And that last dot, you double click to get rid of that. And then I'm going to come all the way over here. And the stuff I want to get rid of is like this up here. That should get rid of most of this. And then this line right here. So that's all I'm doing right now, is systematically just going through and figuring out which stuff I want to delete. So again, here and here, double click, it makes that third point. You're going to highlight all these points and delete them as you need to. So you just come through here and systematically draw all these little X's in here. And that will get rid of the excess lines that you don't, you're going to come back later and we're going to highlight the stuff that we don't want. So this one I might have to fix a little bit because there's not intersecting. So if I go to the selection tool and I take off the magnetic snap, what I'm going to do is drag this beyond like I should have the first time. And that should help get rid of some of these problems in here. So that's just a kind of a workaround, I guess. And then you have this line here. We're going to actually get rid of that. And we're going to get rid of this line here. And we're going to get rid of this line here. So that's all we're doing, is lining out the stuff that we're going to get rid of. Same thing with this. I'm going to draw this through, double click, draw this through, double click. So those are going to help me remove the center lines out of the doorway. And you just systematically do this as like a function of your actual organization. So once you get organized and you start figuring out how to attack these things, it gets a lot easier. Because this is a lot of malarkey here that I'm going through. So I've kind of put myself into a bind here. So I'm not sure how I'm going to deal with this one, because the snap to grid is off. But what I need to do is pull that doorway further out. So let me go to the select tool, and I'm going to take the door and move it this way. And that will help take care of that problem. And I'm going to do the same thing up here a little bit. I'm going to try to select the blue area instead of the red. Yeah, it's not quite let me do that, but I think I'll be okay. Let me try to delete that. Yeah, so I'll see what happens down here when I actually delete it. But when you get down to a point where you have more space to work with and you're not worrying about the snap to grid, it will make it easier on you. So that's why you want a little space in there, and that's kind of what I'm fighting right now, is I didn't have it back enough. So that right about there. And then when you put your line tool in, you can do that, and that'll help you get rid of that doorway and the line in here. So same thing down here. I went in a little bit too close here, so I'm going to go ahead and move it just a hair. Nope, I don't even want to do that. What the hell? Let's see. Yeah, so this needs to go down here. And I think that's a snap to grid thing for sure. And this thing, yeah, it wants to snap to there. That's fine. But later on, we're going to take this with the line tool, and we're going to get rid of those lines there. And this little tail, you can select it. You can select it in the selection tool. And then just click that little dot there, and it gets rid of the tail. So those aren't too bad to get rid of. So if you guys have any questions of what I'm doing, go ahead and ask. Not a big secret here. And you can see all the problems that I come across and let you know you're not alone in these, because you got to get used to the map tools, and there's a lot of little things that you're going to have to learn and kind of wing through until you get familiar with it. But here again, I didn't quite do this the way I should have. But if I drag these corners past, it makes it a little easier to line this up and get rid of the excess. And like this corner piece here, if I click the delete button, it's going to get rid of just that line. But you can get rid of things if you need to, and it will help you out a lot. So like this thing here, I can get rid of this point now, I believe. Yep. And then just bring this in along with this. And then if you want to, you can get rid of probably the center line, but probably just single click. You don't want to double click it. Nope, that's not what I wanted to do, but nonetheless, this won't be too hard to fix. Then I'm just going to go to snap to grid and then go to the selection tool and bring that over and connect it. So it's not too bad. It's kind of like, I don't know, like Legos or something. I don't know how to describe it, but it's definitely something you got to get used to, and make yourself a workflow so that it's quicker and easier, and you're sticking to one tool at a time. So if you notice how much time I wasted just going through there and trying to fix everything, you want to do that once you're got everything selected. So again, I'm going to click this and double click that, and this and double click that. I want to get rid of this. Yeah, so this is basically kind of the fight, I guess. So you got to get used to the tool. And you see, I drew way over on this line. Yeah, I'm going to have to fix that later. But it's just, a matter of getting the lines put down in the right places. You do it right or closer, it will help. But, you can't be absolutely perfect. So this thing here, I guess I could do that. Just kind of line it up there. But normally I would overlap it, so it makes it easier, because see, you're going to get something like this anyway. So you should overlap it and make it a little easier on you. And like this, you can, if you really wanted to, you could pull that in. So it's really up to you how you want to do it. But basically, this line here and here are going to come out. So that's what you're trying to do, is take those excess points out that you don't need. Like this thing here, it's kind of a mess, but extended it beyond the wall. There we go. So it's up to you how you want to handle it, but certainly is easier when you just drag these beyond the location they need to go. And then that way it's not too hard to fix, and you're not fighting it as much as I am. So I'm just going to take this existing line and move it down here, and then take this little tail off. That's good enough. I'm not going to worry too much. I mean, you really have to. You can probably extend this or take this line out and delete it if you want, but I'm not going to worry about it right now. And this line here, this is going to come out, so same with this line. So you just go through these and decide which stuff you want to remove. And that's the bottom line here. So that's all I'm doing right now, is selecting the lines that I want to remove. Didn't want to do that, but I can come clean that up later. I accidentally dragged that over. So this thing here is going to go away. and probably this thing here. So I'm systematically going through and just kind of getting rid of, or setting it up so I can just highlight it and get rid of it. So this is another door that kind of screwed up, and I drew way too far out here on this line. So let me see if I can move it or not. Now, so what I'm going to do is later on, I'll take this doorway and I'll extend it beyond here, and then I'll take and put a line through here, and then later on I'll go through and I'll delete those out. Hopefully that'll help fix it. Same thing with this, so just kind of get rid of that. So all these little X's I'm making are lines that I'm going to get rid of, basically. Now this is kind of a mess here. See, this door isn't quite right, so it'll leak through this area. So at the least, I'm going to drag these through and have those available to drag later. So I'll fix that later. But for the most part, I don't need this piece here. So I'm going to take the line tool and just drag it through here. I'll get rid of that. And then this is the one that I accidentally moved. So I'm going to go to the line tool and get out of the snap to grid and just stretch this to where I want it to go, which is right beyond the door there. And then same thing with this. I come right to about here. Well, I can come down. Wow, okay. So that's interesting for sure. All right, so I guess I'll go here. And then what'll happen is I'm going to clean all this up, and then I'm going to take the door frame and move it to that point and move this one over to this point. And I'll be able to go in and fix that later. So, you know, it's just like this is not right either. So this and this. And then I'm going to clean these two lines here. So I don't want those. So you're just kind of going through and marking out the stuff that you see. This is way off too. Wow, I really had a tough time getting that centered. So let's see. So those lines are coming out. This line is coming out. Actually, this one is not. So I did go back to selection tool. So if I come back here and I delete that, and then I'm going to delete that point. And then this stuff here, you can highlight it and delete that. And then if you wanted to fix this at this point, it might be a good time to move it. So you'd move this over along with this point. Same thing up here. And that way that, you know, you're not right on the damn wall. Kind of want to be away from it. Wow, there's a lot of points there to move. There we go. So, yeah, this is a big mess here. So this is gone. This is going to be gone. Look at that. So highlight all those. Move this over a little. And then redraw that line is about the best. Take this point here and go to snap to grid and just go through that line. So let's see. Yeah, like that. What a mess. So easy to do that. And then this thing here, this line, if I wanted to, I can come back here, fix that. Double click on this line, or just single click actually. Oops. See there, I wasn't in the selection tool. There we go. And then here, same thing. Okay, now we're getting closer to where we should be. So now I'm just going to take some lines and just go like that. and like that. And that's, basically the lines you're going to get rid of. But you can see I didn't do a very good job with these, tracing these out. So that sucked on my part. But, I'm not too worried. It's not a commercial product I'm selling or anything, so. But I wanted you to see some of this frustration that you can go through if you're not careful. So this is it here again. I have to draw these through and get rid of probably this line. I'll see. We'll have to fix these weird corners, but see, that's because of the way I drug them around. That sucked on my part for sure. So it really depends. Like, are you going to try to draw the line straight and avoid all the extra work at the end? Or are you going to fight it and, as you're going? It really depends on what you're doing and what the purpose is. Because I don't see this being any quicker or any smoother than trying to edit as you go in this case. Because I'm not very proficient yet. So that could be a thing. Like if you're not comfortable with the tool yet, that may not be worth your time. So you have to develop something to. Yeah, didn't want that. So snap to grid was on, and then I'm still in the line tool. So I want to delete that thing out of there. Delete that. There we go. So that helped a little, but yeah, I kind of messed this up. So I'm going to go ahead and take this line and move it through here. Double click, and that's that. So you're going to go through these and either systematically take these apart, or you're going to do it as you go. It's kind of up to you, but kind of like this way because I'm not switching back and forth as much. And the only reason I struggled with that before because I was trying to fix it, instead of just finishing the job. So I'm going to take that in consideration when you're actually doing this stuff is like, is it worth all this extra hoopla? So I'm going to select all these lines in here, including the one I just drew by accident, and hit delete. And that gets rid of that big mess where that junction was. I might be able to get rid of this one. Let me see. Yep. And then I'm in the select tool, so I can just kind of nudge this over a little. There we go. So there's the door. And then, this is where you would just highlight stuff and start deleting it. Just make sure you don't delete any of your lines. Looks like I deleted a line from here to there. So if you do that, it's a little easier to fix than you can imagine. So if I go back to the line tool, and go to snap to grid. I'm going to actually start at this corner where the door is. See, there's actually 2 points there. And then come down and intersect with the door right here, right in this corner. There we go. So I accidentally deleted that line when I was editing, but I got it fixed for the most part. And if you have to, it's just a matter of getting used to the tool, to be honest. It can be a real bear if you're not careful. So let's continue to work through those problems, or that type of thing. So I'm going to go ahead and start editing and cleaning this up. So here, this point here, let me go make sure I'm in the select tool. I almost started drawing again. Yeah, so that line is deleted because I've had problems with it. And I'm going to delete that point and take this line and extend it. And then I'm going to take that extension line here and draw over. So I'm going to go to the line tool and click on this. I got snap to grid on, and then I'm just going to use the arrow key to connect it here with its little brother here. And then there is the points I want to get rid of. So if I go to the select tool and I just select all these points and hit delete, that gets rid of all that crap in one shot. That's why it's nice to do this, when you're after the fact, because you got a little bit more, your speed will increase here as opposed to doing it a little at a time. It's kind of up to you though. So again, just gonna actually go like this and then highlight, go back to the selection tool and highlight all this stuff. And that gets rid of that. So it's just a matter of choice. And then here, if you want to adjust this, sometimes you can adjust these in, but I'm not going to dick with that one too much. I keep that where it is. Yeah, that's not even worth my effort. So this here, I'm going to do the same thing. So line tool, cross through, double click, cross through, double click. Cross through here, double click. Cross through here, double click. So you can see all the excess crossover that I'm going to get rid of. So let's see if that works. So in select tool, I'm going to select all of these dots here. I don't want those. And I don't want these two. And select. Yeah. See that? Beautiful. So when you get to a point where you start getting comfortable, see, I forgot the lines here. So this, you want to get all this stuff done first and then try to come back and do this. But anyways, see, I can go through here now and just select all the dots that I want to get rid of and then hit the delete key. You just have to pay attention to make sure you didn't delete any of your main lines like I did earlier. So this is, again, another spot. So highlighting all this extra crap. And that gets rid of the interior doorway. Here again, same kind of thing. Going through and deleting the lines that we don't want. Here's one I forgot, so I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of that one. So to delete stuff, you want to try to make sure you're in the selection mode, not in drawing mode. That makes it harder on yourself. So this is a boo-boo here, so I'm going to have to manually go through and cut that out. I'll see what happens if I... Yeah, see, that deleted the whole line. I was a little bit concerned about that. Oh well. So I just go back to the line tool, make sure I'm in the wall tool, make sure I'm on magnetic, snap to grid, click on this point, bring that point down, make sure it snaps to grid on this point here. And if I zoom in, it looks right. Okay, not too bad. And then here is where I want to get rid of the point. So I'm in select mode. Go through here, delete that. Here, delete that. And then if I want to, I can go back to the select mode and drag this over. And then this line here, see what happens. Yeah, so there we go. Fix that one, not too bad. I'm going to leave that little line in some cases because I'm worried that if I delete that, it's going to delete the doorway. So I'm in select mode. Let's see what happens. So let's click on that, hit delete. There we go. That one, it didn't mess it up. So there we go. That's basically what you got to do is just come through here. So I'm in the selection tool. Just come through and highlight this stuff here because I don't want any of that. And I need to put 2 more lines through. So then I'm going to select and come back over here and just do this part and this part first. because I'm afraid that if I do it wrong, that one, yeah, that's. See, these are not connected now, so I just shouldn't have taken the line out. But I'll go ahead and draw a line in here. So make sure snap to grid is on. Snap here, snap there, double click, you're done. Now go back to the selection tool, select these points, and hit delete. And that gets rid of that. So that's kind of, this is how you kind of get rid of your little messes, and, like this kind of stuff here is it's kind of crazy. So this should have been extended beyond right there, and this as well. And then what you're going to do is go through here and, oops, I did it again. Get rid of this one, not this wall. So this is something you got to get used to. Now I want to go to the selection tool. Select those, select this, and then through here I'm going to select those two lines. I don't want those anymore. And this little dot here is going to bother me, so I'll just leave it there. I'm going to risk deleting the whole line again just to fix that. So that's that. This here is a mess. So again, I'm in the select tool. I'm just going to highlight those, hit delete. This I want to move back in. And then I'm going to see about deleting this line, and maybe this one, and maybe this one. And I'm going to move that one down, and that one. Get rid of this little guy. And I want to draw my lines in here, so I can get rid of the door or the surrounding points. There we go. I wouldn't worry about these little lines right here. I don't think they're going to hurt anything. So if you're worried about deleting the line, you don't know which one will do it, you can leave them. You don't have to. So this one's in between 2 points. So let's see what happens. Yeah, so I feel safer deleting that than the ones that were right next to it. And you could probably drag these over if you wanted to, but I'm not going to worry too much about it. And here's another big mess. Let's see what we got up here. So that is gone. This is gone. I guess it wasn't too bad of a mess. Yeah, it won't let me move that. So what you could do is delete that point and redraw the line. I'm not going to worry about it. See, that's connected like that. So if you wanted to fix that, you could drag that there and drag that there and make it a little bit more conducive to what you want. That would be like that. This would be like that. And now we would select these points. Oops. So now we would select these points. Get rid of those. And then draw a line through this one. This one. That one. And that would give us license to just go ahead and grab that, and oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Dang it. See, you got to remember where you're at in the tool. Keep forgetting, and that's what you're going to go through till you start kicking yourself in the butt every time you make that mistake. Till you just kind of get rid of that hassle, because that's what it is. It becomes just a hassle. You'll get tired of it, and you'll learn eventually not to do that. And I'm getting better at it. It used to be a lot worse. So Let me delete that point. And there we go. So we're starting to go back through and clean these up as best we can without breaking the bank here. So this is just a matter of patience and trying to figure out the tool, and like I said, remembering where you're at in the tool helps a lot. Oops. So I want to get rid of this point here. And again, I'm not in the correct tool. So these points can go. These points can go. But then I click on this little tail, and there we go. So we want to keep the door in there, obviously. Yeah, so you just kind of go through these, and here's an area that we can get rid of. So it's just how you approach it and how you draw it out. This thing is a frickin' mess. Let's see. Get rid of that. Rid of that. See, I had this drawn through the wrong thing here, so get rid of these first. We'll see where we're at before we do anything else. Yeah, see, I didn't want this, so I'm just going to single click on these tails. And I'll draw this through here. And I'll get rid of, oops. I'll go back to the selection tool, and I'm going to get rid of those, and get rid of that, and then take a look, and I got a little tail to get rid of. There we go. So that's wasn't too bad. It looked ugly though. Yeah, that's pretty ugly. And come back through here, clean these up. Here's a tail, get rid of that. Probably could get rid of this, I hope. Nope, that's part of the line. So what I'll do is I'll extend this one up and have it connect. There we go. This one, move it over a little bit. So you could play around with these things to kind of get a better feel for what you want to do with them. But this one is on snap to grid, so let me change that so I can manually move it without it moving too much on me. And then I could get rid of this point here. And then if you look close, I got too many points in there, but I'll go ahead and remove this whole door thing first because of what I did. So let me highlight this, get rid of that so it helps. And this too. And then I'll zoom in, and all I got left is a little tail to get rid of. There we go. So it's just a matter of kind of getting used to the tool and what you should and shouldn't do. Like this doorway here, probably move that in and go to snap to grid, of course. And same with this, I'll just kind of move that in. There we go. So it kind of cleaned that up a little bit. See, to make this more of a, I don't know, kind of like a doorway, this would have been there like that. And then I could possibly get rid of this little point here. There we go. So it's not, the end of the world, but it's certainly something you're going to be fighting with. So you want to make sure that you get used to doing that. And the main thing is, knowing where you're at in the tool. Because that's generally where people screw up. Like, I keep forgetting to go from select to line to rectangle to square. Those are the ones that you tend to goof up on more than anything else. And then, of course, if you don't draw your lines very well. So this cannot be moved normally, so I have to kind of, yeah, see, you turn the snap to grid off when you're doing like finite editing. Now snap to grid is on, and see I have a little tail here. Just delete that. Oops, I want to do that. Oh, wow, I wish I had Control Z. That sucks that they took that away. And just because people were doing the same thing, they were hitting Control Z 50 times and then complaining that they were erasing too much and losing a lot of work. Well, it's because they weren't familiar with the tool more than Fantasy Grounds. It's just user error. But you get the developers pissed off, then then you're not getting any work done. So I understand why they did it. So this, yes, we'll go there. And you can zoom in and see it looks right. And then I can go back to select, kind of move that in a little bit. There we go. So it's shaping up. I mean, it's not perfect, but we've done some good changes here without breaking everything. So then you just go through these and get rid of these things. Like these points, I don't know if it's necessary to have those, but I'm about to find out. So if I select those and I hit delete, it gets rid of the line, but I'm going to take this line and extend it. So, it's not the end of the world in all cases. So sometimes, though, you can really get yourself in a mess. Other times you luck out. So here's some more points I need to get rid of. So there's that, and there's that, and then I need to get rid of this outside one. So I'm going to go back to the line tool and just click here and see it's trying to snap to grid. Now I'm going to go ahead and select, and I'm just going to take this. Actually, I want this whole thing. So this, and that. There we go. And go back to select tool, which I'm already there, and move these lines a little bit in. And then actually I'm going to go to the snap tool. I want to make sure these snap together. There we go. If you have a little space in there, you won't notice it right away until you start using it. All this stuff has to come out. So I'm in the selection tool. I'm going to select all the points, these ones down here, and hit delete. That gets rid of that. So I'm just kind of systematically going through and cleaning these up as needed. So probably not needed at all if I would have done it right the first place. But you're not going to be perfect. It's tough to get all these lines just right. You got to zoom in and out, and you're selecting the wrong stuff. It's something you're going to have to get used to. And you will get better. Just keep practicing. So I got this line here, so I don't need this line. And then I'm going to definitely get rid of this line out here. And I want to get rid of this line right here. This line is not needed either. So go back to selection tool, highlight the points, hit delete. That gets rid of the crap that you don't want. And then I'm still in the selection tool. Let's see if it'll let me drag this over. Yeah, so I can technically. See, when you do this, you want to take the snap to grid off temporarily. I'll delete that, and I will drag this down to this point. And that's where you start really learning to use the tool. See, now I didn't select the right. How do I select that line? Okay. See, now it moved down to where it should go, or closer to where it should go. So, it's just a matter of playing around with the tool and getting used to it. I mean, I make it sound casual, and it really is casual. It's not something you'd want to do. I mean, it's a Sunday afternoon. I'm not doing much right now. Hotter than hell, so it's really warm where I'm at right now. So it's over 100 degrees, so I got to shut my computer down soon, as it won't cool very well without some good ambient temperature being normal. in the Seattle area, so having this type of weather this early in the year and this hot is unprecedented. So here, if you want to fix this, so I'm going to take the snap to grid off. I'm going to bring this down a little bit, stretch this over close, then I'll turn back on the magnetic strip and let it connect. That's basically same thing with this. I'll turn the magnetic snap off, move this up here to this corner, but I don't want to connect it just yet. And I'm going to take this and move this over just a hair. Take this and move that over just a hair. Take this and move that. Okay, so now that I have that kind of straightened out, now I'm going to bring this over and snap to grid on this. So I'm going to snap to grid. I take this, and I didn't want it to go there, but let me fix that. So I'll take the snap to grid off, move that there, click on this little point, delete that, go back to snap to grid. So it looks pretty good. I mean, we're getting there. It's not perfect, but all right. So that's, that's how you clean it up. Basically, you go through and first remove all your excess lines, like this thing here. Might be able to get rid of that. Let's see what happens. Yeah, so that's not what I wanted to do, but nonetheless, I can always draw that back in. So take snap to grid off temporarily. Click on this corner. Yeah, that's a freaking mess. All right, so this. Okay, so I'm going to select these points, see what happens. Yeah, there we go. Will this let me delete this or not? There we go. So just move that over. Now this stuff here is a real mess. See, this is what I'm talking about. You want snap to grid on, and yeah, that's not what I wanted to do. But nonetheless, you can take snap to grid off when you want to move. So move that up there. Take this corner, move it up there. Now let's snap to grid back on. So that fixes some of the mess I have here. And then this thing here is going to be a bear because it's going to be a similar situation. So I want to take the snap to grid off temporarily and move these lines a little bit. And then take this and move this down. And then I can take this and extend it beyond the line. And then I'll just click these little tails and delete those. So just remove the selected points. And same with this. And this corner here, yeah, snap to grid is off. So what I want to do with this is extend this over, then extend that over to where the vertices are. And then I'm going to take and highlight that, hit delete, highlight this, hit delete. So this is how you kind of clean up your mistakes, your boo-boos. Here is another thing that I struggled with, obviously. So to bring this over and overlap it so that it, it actually is on the line. And I just select just that point or just this point and delete. And this point, delete. So that helped with that. And I can bring this in a little bit. It's not too far out. Let's see what we got. And make sure you turn snap to grid on. I don't know how many times I forget to do that. So you got to know where you're at in the tool. And here is an extra point. probably get rid of that, which is good. Looks good over here. Everything looks kind of lined up, which is great. And there we go. So this would be like, you know, your final step with your line of sight is coming through and fixing all these anomalies here. So here I want to make sure I'm connected, and I am. I'll turn off the magnetic snap to grid just in case. There we go. And that's kind of what I was trying to do, and then pull it in. There we go. That's much better. And that's kind of the same thing here. You just come up to here. It makes an extra little tail, and then that is going to go there, and this is going to go up here. And so what will happen is take those points out. And see, I'm in the wrong tool again. Hit a frickin' box. Okay, so this thing here, we want this to come up. And we want this to come up to, you know, to whatever level you're trying to get it to. So it doesn't look like that's where I want it to be. So you can really make a mess of this. It's very easy to do. There we go. Now, in this case, that's about as far as I want to go. So if you were going to fix it like that, and then get rid of this little tail, and then get rid of this extra point, and get rid of that extra point. See, now you'll end up just making more work for yourself if you try to get too finite. So take my advice and don't do this, because this is not worth the effort right here for this finite amount of detail. So do as I say, not as I do, or whatever. So I'm going to click on this little point here, click delete, and it gets rid of that little tail. So you can see I fought that and really didn't get a whole lot done. So that's something you want to try to avoid, especially making maps of this magnitude here. I'm already an hour and a half into this, and it shouldn't have taken this long. But like I said, I do better when I'm just kind of doing it myself. I'm not explaining, but I want to show you guys this stuff because I want you to know you're not alone in struggling with these tools sometimes. I just need to get more proficient with them and understand how they work. And that's what the real problem is not knowing how the tool works. So this is a mess. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that point. Get rid of that? No. So I'll extend this down through here. But I will take a line and go through there. And through there. Now I'll highlight that area. So those little lines there help you select the lines that you need to delete, or the points, I should say. So that's that. Now this is where the mess is going to be because of the width of the door, and then I didn't have it the right height, so want to move that up here and turn back on the snap to grid for a second. And I'm going to get rid of those points there, and then get rid of that. There we go. Starting to clean up. Turn off the snap to grid temporarily. Move these points up. There we go. And I can get rid of that and that. And this point, I think I can get rid of it. Yep. So now it's just a matter of me going through and putting the lines in here to get rid of the doorway. And now I'm going to highlight, oops, that, go back to line of sight. Okay. Now I want to highlight this and that. Oh. And then this line here is going to go away. See if I can move this one. Yeah, but I'm going to turn the snap to grid back on. There we go. So it's good to know kind of how to get out of these things if you know if they're minor like that. Sometimes though it's just easy just to delete it, start over, because you're going to end up just spending more time trying to clean it up like I'm doing right here. But I wanted to show you that you can move things, you can clean them up if you want to, if it's worth it to you. Because I'm telling you right now, this is not worth it. This is a lot of extra work for nothing. This can go here. Okay, so what we have here is an extra point, which I will delete that. But that got rid of the line. Okay, so let me see what's going on here. What did I do wrong? Okay, so let me get rid of a couple of these points. There we go, that's right. Alright, so snap the old grido here. So turn that back on. Take this existing point, actually turn it off, and extend it over here. That's the ticket right there. Right there. All right, there we go. And then this line will go up and over. Oops, that. Okay. So now what we have is a big mess here, but at least I fixed that line. So go ahead and delete this. Delete this little corner right here. Delete that. Go. Don't think I need this little tail anymore. There we go. Did I get rid of the wall? Yeah, it looks like I did. Dang it. Let's see. That can come here. I'll just highlight that door piece there, and oops, now they got rid of that line. So you got to be careful with which lines you're getting rid of. So snap to grid. Take this line and extend it over. That's the ticket right there. Right there. All right, so that's some of this line work can be tedious. If you set about the wrong way or you approach it the wrong way, you're going to end up with a bunch of extra work like I got here. So I'm going to delete this, see what happens. Yep, does see what happens. That. Right there. Move this over. Oh, extend that out. No, move it back in. I'm going to put a line here to there, like that. Now I want to take this little dot here and, oops. See, I'm still in draw mode. I go back to selection mode. There we go. Now we're cooking with gas. So see, there's a lot of extra work that I put into this. So like this could have been fixed much easier if I would have probably just redrew it, to be honest. I mean, that's a lot of extra work for nothing. Because now, see, now I got to go back and, yeah, that's a doozy there. So it's much easier if, if you are able to get closer in, but you're not always going to have that luxury. So you want to make sure that, that you can select your points. Sometimes you have to turn off the snap grid, like I'm going to now. Move some of these lines a little bit and try to fix them so that they look right. So I want to go ahead and delete, I think, this point right here. That little bugger. There we go. It's not bad. It's getting there. So this line and this line, I just need to extend a line from this point up. That's it. I don't need to do anything else. So I'm going to go ahead and take the wall tool, snap to grid, click on that point, and click over or double click. And now I'll just get rid of this point right here. Oops, I'm still in the line tool, darn it. Oh. That's it. So that's a doozy there. If you mess these up early on, really cause you a lot of time. So here's another line here. Go ahead and highlight that. That'll help with that. So you just got to go through and really get used to playing with the tool. I mean, obviously, I know what to do, but I may not be accurate on some of the lines that I'm drawing. I think that's where, some of the problem lied was, I had too many lines out of the zone where they needed to be. So like this here, snap to grid. So I'm going to move that over a little bit. Take this line, extend it. So you can see, like, there's a lot of extra work in here for nothing. So try not to make more work than it's worth. Yeah, see, I can't even move that. Let me snap to grid off. Let's try that. There we go. So snap to grid can prevent you from editing. So every once in a while, you have to turn that on and off to make fine adjustments. So there, it's not too bad, but these are things that you're going to have to fight if you don't draw that in the right way. But these are also tools on how to get out of this stuff and, salvage some of the work you've done too. So it just depends on what you're doing. See, snap to grid is not letting me move anything. That's a problem. So technically, I should get rid of those lines like that. And then I'm going to bring this up and out like this, where I want it. And I'm going to bring this up and over where I want it. Let those let those connect together. Then I can actually take this point, take this point. So that cleans that up without all that extra garbage. And this one can kind of clean that up there. So you can go through and fix some of these points if you want. Like this thing here is just going to be a nightmare. See, I just deleted it again. So instead of doing that, I'm going to take this line and go all the way through and call it good. And then take this point and delete it. That way, when you come out here, what you got left is this little tail to get rid of. Yeah. So it cleaned it up a little bit. And I hear there's an extra point in here. Do you need that? I mean, then you risk getting rid of the line from this wall, so you don't want to necessarily do. So let's see what we got here. Yeah, see, it didn't let me cleanly delete it without. See here, now we got another issue. Glad I saw that. So you're gonna go ahead and click, and hopefully that deletes that. But what you get is this begets that, begets this, and then before you know it, you're redoing the whole thing anyways. So you want to be careful with that, you know, in your coming days of mapping. And so I'm going to take this and delete that point and drag this one down to where it's going to intersect this wall. So I'm going to go a little bit past there. I'm going to take this one and drag it down there. And then that way you have somewhere to delete from. And this obviously is going to make a problem for me. So this is the thing I'm telling you, that it really can be time consuming if you don't realize the different things you can get in trouble with. So now you go past, a little bit past the doorway. And then I can just delete this. I'm going to make sure I'm in the selection tool. And delete these points. Yeah. So I was able to get out of it, but as you can see, it caused me a lot of extra grief. And I still got stuff to do here. I got, let me see if I can speed this up a little bit. So I'm going to click here, double click. Same thing here, double click. I have the magnetic snap off because I don't want to deal with that right now. And this corner here, go to selection tool and drag this over. Yeah, that's, so these little things like this can really make a nightmare out of this. Drag this over. It. No. Now I want to take and do that crisscross thing here. Like I said, you can take the selection tool, left click, highlight, get rid of those particular lines. And I'm going to do the same thing here. So I'll go back to the line tool. And I'm going to take, oopsies, so now I'm drawing instead of selecting. This is what you got to be careful with. It's going to take those points out right there. There we go. So that the selection tool works pretty good for, you know, grabbing all the lines you want to get rid of. And it's kind of the same thing here. So that gets rid of a majority of that crap. And then this thing is kind of the same thing. I got to zoom in because I got too finite of a edit there. So that takes care of some of that. And then there's a line here that I need to get rid of because it's a part of the doorway. And I want to get rid of that line. Or at least that point. Go. So then obviously I got rid of a whole frickin' line here. So what I'll do is I'll take and grab this point and move it up into, oops, I didn't want to move it all the way up there. That part of it. And then you can look, see here where it's kind of goofed up. That's that. Fix that part. So, you know, getting this perfection down isn't going to be overnight if you really need that perfection, that is. You really have to work with the tool, and that's really what kind of the point I'm making here. I'm no pro yet. I have a ways to go before I get more proficient with it. I'm getting better every time I touch it. So put your time in is another good point. Putting your time into the tool so you're not fighting it. And obviously I'm doing a lot of fighting here. So I'm not switching tools down. I'm getting tired. I'm not paying attention to what I'm doing. So all these things kind of get your goat after a while. So you got to be careful what you're doing and make sure you know where you're at in the tool. So now I'm on snap to grid is off. I have this line tool. So what I'm going to do is drag this corner down here a little bit. And then I'm going to take this line and draw it past the door. And then I'm going to take and draw a line through here. So take this line and draw it like that. And then I'm going to go back to the selection tool. And I'm going to highlight all this stuff here and hit delete. That should have cleaned up that. Yeah, that cleaned that up pretty good. And then I got another line to get rid of, which is this one up here. And I think I can get rid of this blue point. Let's see what happens. Yeah. So that got rid of that. And then I'm going to go back to the line tool. I'm in wall. And I'm just going to, highlight all of this stuff with the selection tool. Get rid of it. There we go. So that one wasn't as bad. And here's another one I got to get rid of. So before I do that, I'm in the selection mode. So I want to clean up these little tails. So get rid of those. And draw my line through here. Now I'm going to go to selection mode. And just here and delete. So that, that's not too bad. I mean, it's could have been a lot better, sure, but now I'm going to go through here. Now, the thing that gets me goofed up is sometimes I won't know, okay, is this part of that line? Or so see, obviously I didn't want to do that, but I'm going to go ahead and draw a line, and I'm going to start it like way out here somewhere so that it's not going to go through. So I'm going to go to the line tool. Snap to grid is off. I'm going to start there and just go all the way through here. Get close. Call it good. And it didn't go through that. So what I'm going to do is drag this, make sure I'm in the selection tool. Drag that over. And there it is. So just going to get rid of that tail and this little tail right here. And then come back up and edit this other thing up here. Will it let me move it? Yeah, it'll move. And now I can get rid of this point and this point. This point should be. So it kind of cleaned up the walls a little bit. Here's another area I have to fix up, but I'm going to go ahead and select those. Those are going to be gone. And this down here, don't want that anymore. So you can see there's a lot of work that can go into these and not get anywhere. So I'm doing okay. I could have been a lot worse. So here, yeah, so these didn't even move the way I wanted them to. So let's see if this point actually cleans up. Yeah, see, that's not even close. Let's see what happens. Actually, with this point, what happened? See, it deleted the whole line instead of, that's a little frustrating. So now you got that, and then I'm just going to take this line here, draw another new line down to this doorway, and click there, clean that up a little bit. So now we have this funky wall that we're fixing here. And get rid of this tail. Oops. Again, I didn't go back to selection mode. So that, click that. that part and move it over to there. And what you want to do is snap the grid in some cases, so you can go right to that point. You don't have to see, these are all off. Snap the grid off for a moment. And now that I'm closer, just touch it and basically go. So it's really, up to you how much effort and time you want to put in here. So like these here need to be cleaned up. I got this here, this point doesn't need to be there. And then I could take that, yeah, that's good. I take this and draw a line. And then go back to the selection tool, select the points I want to get rid of, and delete. This actually fixed itself, but I still have a little bit of a tail here, so I want to click that and this little point there. There we go. So a lot of zooming in and out. If you're, if you're not paying attention and you're in a rush, or you're getting pissed off, it's not a good time to work on maps if you're not in a good mood. I'm okay though. I'm not upset at all. Learning what not to do, basically. So that this is a thing where you have to get used to the tool, and there ain't no going around it, no easy button. You just got to play with it, get a feel for it. So I think I'm good for right now. I've gone for at least a couple hours, so I got to turn my computer off because it's way too hot. So you have a good rest of your weekend. I'll see you guys around in the community. I will. These will be archived, so don't worry about that if you missed any of it. It's not a whole lot to miss today, just me struggling with the tool, but at least you can see some of the ways to fix and clean some of the stuff up. So you guys have a good afternoon. I'll talk to you later, and I'll keep doing these.